What if the secrets you seek are hidden not behind locked doors or cryptic scrolls, but in the sweep of a brushstroke left to dry in silence thousands of years ago? What if every pattern, every ring of color is an echo from a vanished world, waiting for you to find it? When you press your hand to crumbling earth, whose story do you awaken? Could a single spiral on an ancient bull unravel an entire dynasty's fate? Or a flash of violet in the silt summon forbidden rituals never spoken aloud? Tonight, the firelight glows softly around you. The wind carries scents of old clay and sea spray, whispering questions that no textbook dares to ask. How did those crimson spirals survive centuries of drought and war? Why did potters risk all for a glaze the color of frozen jade, or dare to sail violet vessels below the tide? Among the ruins, I promise you will find more than answers. You will chase riddles sown in the valleys and mountains, raining down with the passing storms and rising beneath harvest moons. Every artifact we uncover will open a new loop, a mystery spiraling further than memory. Are you ready to wander through epochs erased from time's ledger, tracing clues only visible to those willing to listen, question, and dream? Step forward with me as the explorer of the Erased Epochs. The journey begins now. I step into the Valley of Shadow as morning struggles to break through the mist. The pyramid looms above, its stones heavy with centuries of silence. Every breath is thin, laced with dust and expectation. Around me, the ground itself seems to hold its breath. This is a place where sunlight seldom lingers, and history remains partially buried beneath shifting sands and tangled roots. The locals warned of spirits, of secrets that do not wish to be seen. I press forward. There, within a shallow depression circled by adobe walls, I find my first clue, an unassuming fragment of a ceramic bowl. When I crouch beside it, the coolness of the morning deepens. The shard is surprisingly heavy, dense with meaning, its surface dressed in colors that should not have endured the centuries. The crimson spiral leaps out first, its pigment so rich it seems freshly applied. I run a gloved finger along the spiral's edge, feeling ridges left by careful hands, long departed. The color is mesmerizing, deeper than ordinary red, pulsing with an intensity that draws the eye and the imagination. In those spare moments, kneeling in shifting light, I think of the artists who shaped bowls like this one. The Moche civilization, lost for more than 1,000 years, once flourished here along the now starved river valleys in what is modern-day northern Peru. They built their lives from earth, river, and bone, channeling all they knew and feared into clay. Their warriors, priests, and artisans commanded skills in both violence and beauty, and their pottery was never just for eating or storage. It was an offering, a record, and a ritual, all at once. What compelled them to repeat this spiral? Historians have long debated, poring over bowls, bottles, and murals in the hope of finding a code. Some believe the spiral echoes the movement of water, a lifeline in these parched valleys. Others whisper that it is an emblem of time, death, or passage into the next world. Here, the spiral feels like the very fingerprint of the culture, confident, looping, beckoning the viewer to look closer. Yet, as I brush away more dust, I see that the color itself is a puzzle. Crimson like this does not come easily. It would have required rare minerals or precious pigments drawn from the roots of the land. To make a color last through centuries of rain and sun, The Moche would have needed not just technical expertise, but a spirit of devotion. What rituals surrounded the preparation of these paints? Did the artists pray or speak with ancestors as they dipped their brushes and spun their visions on spinning clay? Each mark is more than decoration. It is a message sent forward through time, addressed to anyone willing to listen. The valley suddenly feels less empty. I hear the soft hush of wind passing through broken reeds, almost a chorus echoing from the lost city. I imagine the original owner of this bowl, a priest perhaps, or a woman lighting lamps for the dead. Did their eyes follow this spiral as mine do now, searching for purpose, for guidance, or for peace in a world haunted by tides and droughts? The questions multiply as quickly as the loops of red on the clay. As I rise and tuck the fragment into my pack, I feel the spiral's pull, urging me onward. I have found only a single link in a much deeper chain, but there is more hidden in the surrounding dust. In the ruins just ahead, old walls lean toward each other, promising further riddles. Little do I know, the next artifact I will find belongs to a realm of fire and color, far older than memory. The expedition continues, and with each step, the valley deepens its hold. The crimson spiral does not end. It only leads further into the shadows, where the past keeps its secrets for those patient enough to follow. The day begins in muted golden haze as I step onto stones weathered by 1,000 floods and centuries of sun. The air hangs thick, tinged with distant incense, sometimes sweet, sometimes overcome by the sharp tang of dust and anticipation. The columns reach overhead with faded hieroglyphs still visible against the pale dawn. I am dwarfed by their solemn endurance. This is the sacred heart of Thebes, a city built to honor gods, kings, and the mysteries that linger between. Every sound here is hushed, as if I have stumbled into a memory rather than a place. I enter the temple, my footsteps echoing where priests once sang. My lantern's beam dances on dark corners and painted ceilings once bright with celestial colors. Beneath the altar, I detect a loose slab, its surface chipped, half hidden by stray grains and old offerings crusted thick with time. I crouch down, heart pounding, the hush deepening as I gently pry the slab from its resting place. With surprising ease, the ground gives way, revealing a cavity untouched for centuries. A rush of cool, ancient air envelops me, swirling scents of amber, myrrh, and the faint sting of stone. Below rests a cluster of pottery fragments, each adorned with streaks of saffron and burnt orange flame. The pigments leap up in the lantern's glow, vivid as the day they were painted. I touch one bowl, feeling ridges and cracks, a story scored into clay. The fire gleams beneath traces of blackened soot, the saffron so alive it almost flickers. The Egyptians revered color, weaving cosmic significance into every pigment. Saffron was not simply decoration, it was an invocation. Drawing its hue from rare minerals and petals, they saw in yellow and orange the brilliance of Ra, the sun god, embodiment of rebirth and power. How did these colors last so long, stubborn as the stories that filled these halls? Scholars argue over the ingredients and processes, speculating at ritual secrets into the glaze. I imagine the artists kneeling at night, mixing powders by candlelight, murmuring words to spirits hovering just beyond sight. As they painted flames, perhaps they sought more than beauty. Perhaps they reached for a promise, a shield against oblivion, or a gesture of devotion to forces they could not fully name. Some fragments show scenes lost to time tiny figures surrounded by saffron fire, eyes turned skyward. Were these vessels for offerings, for prayers, given in hope or desperation? The fire motif is almost hypnotic, curling up from the base of each bowl, winding around rims and handles. The lines are effortless yet meticulous, as if each artist painted from memory, guided by something deeper than skill. The flames echo the turbulent power of the Nile, the devastating force of desert wind, and the dazzle of midday sun, the triptych that shaped Egyptian fate. I sense a paradox here. The temple is a place of order, yet the pottery carries the raw pulse of chaos and rebirth. Years later, archaeologists would debate their purpose. Some claim these artifacts marked ceremonies honoring the dead, their flames symbolizing light that guides souls to the afterlife. Others argue they were vessels for festival feasts or royal banquets, painted bright to spark joy. But as I hold the fragment, all theories seem to falter. The truth feels slippery, glimpsed in flashes, then receding back into shadow. The saffron flames bend and ripple in the lantern's glow, never fully explaining themselves. I tuck the bowl into my pack, heart stirred by its lingering warmth. In the hush beneath this temple, I realize every fire must have a source, but answers are rarely found in the open. They are hidden, waiting beneath floors and behind walls, in relics left by hands that believed the sacred could outlast oblivion. As I rise, I notice a sliver of green glinting into. Perhaps the journey will next lead me into the rain-soaked Highlands, where another civilization once painted its longing in emerald lines. The chain continues, and the story deepens with every step. The journey takes me far from the dry whispers of temples and the scorched air of ancient valleys, up into a land brooded over by constant rain and endless green. It is late afternoon when I arrive, boots muddied, coat slicked against the drizzle. The highlands here are always cloaked in mist. Moss climbs up abandoned walls, and the skies brood with the promise of more storms to come. It is easy to believe time itself slows to a patient drip, pine needles collecting dew as crows mark my passing from above. Sheltered by the ruins of a collapsed hut, I kneel, feeling the damp soak through my knees. In the gloom, my fingers brush against cool, unyielding clay. There, hidden beneath soft earth, I discover a small cup, no wider than my palm, as delicate as breath. The rain taps out a hypnotic rhythm as I wipe away centuries of soil to reveal patterns I first think are cracks, but quickly realize are painted lines, emerald impossibly bright. The design is a lattice, each line interlocking with the next woven. For a moment, the world contracts to the intricate crosshatch before me. The pigment glimmers, resistant to time and weather, a challenge flung at entropy by hands that vanished thousands of years ago. The Yangshao people whose villages once thrummed across this basin have left little written trace. What survives are the grains of their daily life. Stone axes, woven baskets, and pottery painted with the same careful lines now emerging from the mud in my hand. Historians debate the meaning of these lattices. Some suggest they are mere decoration, inspired by the weaving of mats and nets. Others insist they are maps, prayers, or even stories crystallized in symbol. The rain grows heavier, drumming a cadence on the broken roof above. My lamp glows softly, throwing the lattice into luminous relief. As I turn the cup, emerald lines catch the light, each strand seeming both deliberate and spontaneous, a perfect marriage of order and organic flow. I imagine the potter at work, bent over the wheel as mist seeps through the windows, rain soaking their world as they mix minerals into pigment. What secrets did they whisper? What hopes did they etch into every careful line? Did each cup mark the birth of a child, the coming of harvest, a plea for gentle rain rather than destructive flood? Legends from this region speak of spirits in the trees and ancestors guiding the living with subtle signs. Perhaps the woven patterns are not just memory, but coded messages, calls for protection, gratitude, or forgiveness. Nature governs everything here, and the emerald lattice seems to echo that truth. Roots tangle beneath the soil, vines climb with silent intent. Rivers wind in and out of sight. Art and necessity merge in each intersecting line. As night presses in, the lattice almost shimmers, alive with secrets I cannot read. Did this cup once hold morning's rice or evening's rainwater? Was it lifted to lips in ceremony, or simply cradled as a token of hope? The lines seem to promise both answers and riddles, a story still running beneath the noisy quiet of falling rain. Packing the fragment away, I realize how fragile such connections are, how quickly they slip away if not treasured. A sound catches my attention, low and steady. In the next valley, villagers gather around a new dig, stories circulating of blue masks and ancient eyes unearthed by moonlight. I shoulder my pack, heart quickening. The rain eases for a breath, and I step into the mist, drawn by rumors and the inheritance of curiosity. Somewhere ahead, another enigma awaits, a cobalt mask perhaps, holding yet another key to the endless pattern. The lattice leads on, its knots and crossings always guiding, always beckoning. The sun hovers low and heavy, casting the desert in bronze and shadow. Each step crunches across stones scorched by centuries and swept by wind. My throat is raw in the arid air, lips coated with the taste of salt and memory. In all directions the land rolls on, cracked under the weight of forgotten empires. I pause, pulling my map from beneath my coat, tracing a faint line that leads to a collection of sun-bleached ruins, a relic of old Persia and its secrets baked into sand and clay. The silence here holds its own gravity. The kiln appears almost by accident, half buried beneath a drift of ochre sand and twisted tamarisk. Its simple, domed mouth has collapsed, but the earth around it is stained with a green so intense it seems to glow. Turquoise, bold as an impossible promise. My fingers tremble as I clear the sand away from a collection of shards, each one humming with color, each whispering a story stilled by time. I lift a fragment, a lip of a jar, perhaps painted with lustrous turquoise threads that curl and spiral along the edge. The paint remains shockingly vivid in the afternoon glare. The lines chase one another like rivers running through a parched land, purposeful and intricate, yet almost casual in their sweep. These are not careless marks. They echo the artistry and precision of the Persian craftsman, whose pots and tiles once dazzled travelers in royal courts and bustling caravanserais. The turquoise pigment was both treasure and mystery. The recipe was fiercely guarded, mined from copper-rich earth, and tempered with minerals in a process as much ritual as craft. Ancient texts hint at sacrifices and prayers, at the belief that turquoise was not simply an adornment, but protection. Against drought, against evil, against the slow erasure of hope in a landscape always testing patience. Amulets, cups, tiles for temples. All around the kiln, broken vessels reveal variations on a theme. Some have thick, looping bands the color of sapphire sky. Others boast the fine filigree of netting or wind-blown grass. I imagine artisans working by firelight, hands dusted blue, listening to the great kings and priests tell of distant battles, shifting borders, and the endless hunger of empires. Was this craft an act of worship, a plea for beauty, or a coded message only the initiated could decipher? I set the shard on my palm, turning it over in the warm light. The turquoise catches and flares as if holding the sea itself inside the clay. There is both luxury and sadness here, something intimate yet unreachable. Later scholars would argue about the origins of the pigments or the meanings of the spiral designs, but kneeling beside the kiln, these debates seem to fade against the deeper, older silence. The air is suddenly punctuated by a soft breeze that carries the taste of distant rain. Despite the heat, I shiver. For a moment, I hear laughter, perhaps a memory, perhaps a warning, from the workers who once built their fortunes in color. Every line and spiral emerges from the cloak of sand, evidence that art, like hope, is never fully buried. I wrap the turquoise threaded fragment in cloth, heart thrumming with the thrill of kinship through time. As I gaze farther across the endless wastes, a distant hill shimmers strangely in the setting sun. Travelers speak of moonlit masks and blue mysteries hidden among ruined towers, waiting for those determined enough to climb and curious enough to ask. My journey, stitched now with the power of Persian turquoise, is far from over. The desert keeps its riddles and its guardians, but tonight I have a fragment of beauty to guide me onward. Night falls over the hilltop ruins in a slow, deep hush. The light recedes, surrendering the land to a sky flooded with ancient stars. Low stone walls cast long shadows over my camp, and the wind carries scents of wild thyme and distant ocean, reminders of how close and yet how far the world can feel after dark. My lantern casts a gentle, golden glow, but it struggles against the blanket of night. Even the moon seems hesitant, veiled behind high, restless clouds. I have come here searching for the legendary Midnight Urn, a piece spoken of in the old dig journals, but rarely seen. The Mycenaeans, masters of labyrinth and legend, designed their pottery to outlast storms, conquest, and silence. Following the path of a crumbled stairwell, I find myself beneath a collapsed portico. There, wedged in the earth, I spot a rounded shape cloaked in soil and centuries. Every movement is careful, precise, as I brush away layers of dirt to reveal the prize. The urn emerges as though waking from a dream. Its form is elegant in the flickering light, an amphora shaped by hands wise to rhythm and balance. What truly arrests my attention are the indigo stars painted across its midnight surface. The color is so deep it is nearly black, yet wherever the light touches, pinpricks of blue leap to life, scattered in patterns that seem intentional yet infinite. Indigo, rare and costly, was a color worthy of kings and gods in Mycenaean days. Artisans traded for the precious dye, sometimes traveling great distances to obtain it. To paint a whole urn in this hue meant devotion and ambition. This was not a vessel for common use. The stars themselves are tiny, geometric, placed with mathematical precision that suggests a mind both artistic and scientific. Were these constellations meant to guide sailors and priests? or merely hopeful copies of the sky, a way to bring heaven closer to earth. Tracing my fingertips over the urn, I marvel at the steadiness required to place each star so exactly. These are not random dots, but a language of points and angles, perhaps a map for the dead or a chart for ritual journeys. To the Greeks, indigo was mystical, capturing the boundary between dusk and creation. Every vessel painted in this shade felt touched by the infinite, the liminal space where human life meets myth. A soft hiss of wind wafts through broken columns, and for a moment the urn seems to pulse with hidden light. I imagine the original potter at work, candle flickering, humming to herself, while outside, the city slept beneath Mycenae's great walls. Was she recalling a night when stars wheeled above the Acropolis, or dreaming of lost comrades sailing into uncharted seas? The myths suggest that those who die heroically are placed among the stars. Perhaps this urn was shaped for just such a soul, a vessel for memory and longing. I lift the urn, cradling its weight. No cracks disturb the indigo canvas. Every star holds every line sure, despite untold nights spent buried and forgotten. Generations of scholars have speculated about their purpose. Many say the urns marked tombs or protected offerings to goddesses of fate. Others whisper that hidden codes lie within the arrangements, star clusters charting destiny for those wise enough to see. Packing the urn away, I sense a shift in the air. Far beyond the camp, where broken towers meet shadow, locals have murmured stories of pottery with haunting faces, masks painted blue as the Aegean at dusk. The journey will soon turn to these masked mysteries. But tonight, I walk beneath the real stars, guided by the silent language painted thousands of years ago. The urn draws the darkness close, holding it lightly, patterned with hope that the night will always end and the sky will always remember. The evening has settled over the fields in a bronze hush. Shadows stretch from rows of ancient olive trees, softening the rough edges of ruined terraces and stone markers worn smooth by time. Here, beneath the rising harvest moon, the rituals of old linger on the wind as sweet notes of grain and grass mingle with the cooling earth. I cross a gentle slope, boots sinking into the hush of falling leaves, every sense drawn to the distant outline of a half-buried kiln, its dome fractured, crusted with lichen, silent witness to centuries of patient waiting. In the company of dusk, the kiln radiates memories with each stone. Locals still whisper of the Etruscans, a people who built with vision, worshipped with fervor, and left behind mysteries woven into pottery and painted tombs. I kneel, lantern steady, brushing aside caked soil and tangled vine to reveal fragments glowing softly in the golden light. An urn, half whole, emerges from the earth. Its surface gleams with the unmistakable hue of amber, deep, warm, like the final rays of sun dissolving into the horizon. I turn it gently, marveling at how the glaze captures both the fire of day and the serenity of night. The Etruscans reveled in the play of color and light. Their artisans transformed natural minerals into lustrous amber glaze, seeking not simply beauty, but a channel to the realm of the gods. Stories say the harvest moon was sacred, a time when earth and spirit drew near, when offerings were made with hope for abundance or forgiveness. This urn, adorned with waves and crescents, reflects those themes. Each mark is both harvest and myth, both the fullness of life and the promise of renewal after darkness. The glaze feels impossibly smooth beneath my fingertip, defiant before the centuries. Amber, hard to produce and even harder to preserve, required patience and alchemy. The kiln itself would have burned through long nights, artisans tending the flames and uttering chants to guide their hands and the colors in the right direction. I imagine young apprentices passing pigment and water, listening for the wise potter's approval, eyes bright as the moon that governed their hopes. Patterns dance over the urn's belly, reeds bending in a gentle wind, crescents echoing the lunar cycle, birds in subtle silhouette poised as if to swoop and gather grain. There is a story here, perhaps a family's fortune, a village's collective prayers, encoded into the earth and paint. Some scholars say these motifs were meant to bless or protect the bounty of the coming season, to invoke the moon's tenderness for peaceful nights. Others argue the urns were used for storing the first fruits of harvest, tokens of gratitude to deities who see both joy and suffering. As I hold the amber urn, I note a subtle crack running along its rim. It feels like an invitation, a reminder that nothing is untouched by time or fate. The flaw makes the piece more intimate, as if I am holding a memory rather than an artifact. The moon hangs overhead, bigger now, casting pale swathes of light across the fields. I close my eyes, trying to sense what those ancient hands felt, kneeling in similar dust, hearts full of expectation for the cycle to begin anew. Packing the urn away, I rise, watching the landscape shift in moonbeams, a tapestry woven in silence but charged with longing. Beyond the nearest ridge, rumors persist of painted hands and ochre spirals hidden in dimly lit tombs. Perhaps my journey will lead me into their midst, unraveling more about the bonds between art and ritual, hope and survival, mystery and memory. With the amber glow as my guide, I press on, the harvest moon steady above, promising that every ending flows into a new beginning, just beyond the horizon. Dawn breaks over a world locked in chill. The river is stone and silence, its surface sealed by sheets of ancient ice reflecting the faint pulse of a winter sun. I cross the muted valley with breath hanging in pale clouds and boots sinking into frost-laced earth. Every step crackles, and every sound seems both distant and profound. I am far from the warm rains and lush fields of southern lands. Here the cold holds everything in slow suspense, and stories seep up through the ground only when invited by patience. Nestled in the shadow of a low embankment, I kneel beside a channel that was once the lifeblood of a lost city. The Shang dynasty reigned here thousands of years ago, kings and craftsmen weaving jade and bronze together into legends. My hands push aside a drift of brittle reeds and dusted snow. Underneath, clay glints with subtle green, a shard so delicate it feels like holding a secret. I brush away the last traces of ice to reveal the relic's skin, and jade brushstrokes sparkle, tracing elegant arcs and swirling characters across the vessel's surface. Jade was the most coveted treasure in the Shang world, cherished even more than gold. To paint with its powdered form was to court the favor of ancestors and the attention of the gods. These brushstrokes, thick and flowing, capture the balance between spontaneity and ritual. No two lines are alike. Each slip of green is both intentional and inspired. A marriage of art and worship. Did the artist kneel in a cold hut, breathing prayers into every movement, hoping that the river's spirit would bless next year's harvest or forgive last season's losses? The scene on the pot glows softly. A labyrinth of rivers, swirling clouds, sharp peaks, and rising moons. Jade green threads wind in and out, looping over and under, much as the Yangtze does in summer, and as the frozen river beneath me might again if warmth ever returns. There are traces of old characters, their meanings half lost to time, hints of mythic battles, of dynastic dreams, poems set in motion by wind and water. Some believe these brushstrokes were made during ceremonies marking the river's freezing and thawing, rites seeking luck or wisdom from the forces that govern the seasons. I lean close, lantern flickering through ice crystals, imagining a line of figures carrying lanterns at dusk along this very bank, voices rising in song, each word echoed by the mountains beyond. Did a family pass this vessel among themselves while the river froze, reciting legends of jade dragons and kings who ruled by virtue and strength? The river is silent now, but the pot whispers of celebrations lost, of trials endured before the return of spring. The artistry is technical and emotional, a painter's hand guided by tradition but released by inspiration. Scholars puzzle over the meaning. Some say the green lines protected against evil spirits, others see them as visible prayers for survival in lean times. The Shang honored both gods and ghosts, believing that shadows and moonlight could shape destiny as surely as human virtue. As I tuck the jade vessel into my pack, the cold deepens and light struggles against the coming storm. I am aware of the fragility of these connections, how each artifact must transition from the hush of earth to the uncertainty of a new story. Far ahead, beyond the river and over the frozen ridge, rumors swirl of ochre hands pressed to tomb walls, of pottery marked by communal bonds and powerful fears. The river may lie dormant, but beneath the surface, jade still runs, a promise carved in clay, preserved by frost and memory. With every step, I walk deeper into the realm where silence meets art, and winter guards its riddles with delicate green fire. The climb is slow and silent, boots gripping the cold stone path winding toward a monastery perched on the edge of the sky. Every breath is filled with spice and snow, and the forest cloaks the mountains in veils of cobalt blue morning mist. Pines rise from the slopes in solemn ranks. The temple bell, long quiet, is barely visible through worn gates and tangled undergrowth. This is a place made for contemplation and endurance, forgotten by most save for wild deer and the whispers of wind that seem to remember every prayer ever uttered. As I step beneath a warped torii, the air changes, dense with incense and an invisible hum. Centuries of meditation have etched themselves into the granite, every mossy stone a chapter in a story only silence can tell. My lantern flickers, casting fractured shadows on the sculpted rock. Tucked in a sheltered corner, half swallowed by roots and time, I discover a collection of pottery shards, their surfaces alive with a striking cobalt glaze. I pick up the largest fragment. Light glances off its curves, igniting a web of deep blue lines stretched across the clay in looping, intersecting patterns. Each thread purposeful, both tangled and precise. The Jomon artisans mastered fire and pigment through countless winters, their pots and jars inscribed with stories not written but painted. The cobalt web reveals centuries of artistic devotion, reflecting both nature's simplicity and complexity. Did these lines speak of the rivers that wound below, or were they prayers? Offerings left by monks hoping for calm and clarity as they faced harsh mountain seasons? The pigment itself was rare and difficult to produce. Jomon potters mixed imported minerals with locally sourced stones, tested formulas in fire, and prayed as flames licked the kiln walls. A blue this deep held mystical associations, protection from spirits, links to the sea and the sky, a bridge to transient worlds. Only the most skilled monks and artists dared weave such webs. The process blended discipline and risk, each vessel a meditation embodied in earthy transformation. Beneath the glaze, faint fingerprints show where a craftsman pressed the clay, shaping it as twilight faded into the long night. The lines seem random at first, but the pattern resolves, a network that might symbolize kinship, migration routes, or the cycles of nature watched from these heights. Elder monks spoke of the web as a map, a means of visualizing the interconnectedness of life and spirit, of wind and water. I turned the fragment, watching cobalt glisten in the thin light. It feels like holding a winter stream or a night sky, both present and elusive. There is a sense of peace here, but also urgency, the wisdom of finding harmony without denying chaos. The Jomon believed that each line drawn, each layer fired, was a step toward understanding not just the world but the self. Perhaps the web reveals how mountains endure through seasons, or how the soul persists amid storms. I packed the cobalt shard gently, the air tinged now with the promise of coming rain. As the wind rises, distant voices drift from the monastery's dark halls, songs marking transitions, prayers to ancient deities. The journey will soon descend into villages along the riverbank, searching for sisters of this clay among reeds and shadowed waters. Yet I linger, listening to the echo of the bell, pondering a single truth. Art is always a bridge, a web spun between worlds waiting to be crossed. The mountain keeps its quiet counsel, and the cobalt will guide my steps down into the valley, pursuing riddles that only patience and curiosity can unravel. Warm wind stirs the tall grass, carrying scents of charcoal and wild sorghum. I have walked for hours through sun-soaked ridges, every footfall pressing deeper into red earth dusted with traces of ancient settlement. The land breathes history, a patchwork of fields and shadowy mounds that defy the passage of time. Here in West Africa's heartland, stories are not spoken aloud, but felt in silence and soil. The ruins of the workshop emerge from a tangle of acacia branches, nothing more than a scatter of low walls and blackened stones. My boots crunch across the threshold, disturbing nests built in seasons long after the workshop faded from memory. I kneel among fragments, and the dust rises, clouds of ochre swirling in the late afternoon light. Ochre, pigment of sun and blood, was the Nock's signature, capturing something sacred in its earthy hue. I dig with care, fingers gripped by anticipation. Suddenly, I uncover a cluster of potsherds, their surfaces layered with ochre prints and spiraling designs that curl around the base and up the rim as if climbing for air. Some shards are marked with the outline of a human hand, impressions left by the ancient artisans themselves. The feeling is immediate, primal, a bond across centuries, the trace of another explorer's journey. The Nock people built their legacy not upon words but clay. Their workshops echoed with the rhythm of life, each vessel shaped for ceremony and memory, each pigment mixed with faith. Ochre, mined from nearby streams and iron-rich hills, was both blessing and warning, painting warnings on walls and prayers on jars. Its color is more than decoration. It is connection, the visible fingerprint of a culture unafraid to confront spirit and fate. I imagine the old workshop illuminated by fires, voices rising in song as elders directed apprentices in the mixing and painting of clay. Hands steady but hope-filled, pressing marks onto fresh pots, a tradition that bound family and tribe. The prints cluster in patterns, sometimes reaching, sometimes shielding, suggesting stories told in gesture and symbol. No one knows for sure whether these were signs of protection, courage, or surrender. The mystery endures in Ochre's mute language. The pottery bears spirals too, intricate and looping, weaving in and out among the handprints. A dance of order and chaos reflecting the cycles that carried the knock through feast and famine. Perhaps elders used the spirals to teach the young, guiding them through stories of ancestors and the spirits watching from the edges of the firelight. The ochre dust is everywhere, coating my hands, forcing me to recognize that discovery is always personal, tinged with longing. Scholars have puzzled over these fragments, seeking meaning in the faded pigment and age-softened lines. Some say the ochre hands marked workshops where pottery was fired for special feasts. Others believe the prints guided hunters or protected the sick from unseen dangers. But here, in the hush of the forgotten workshop, the answers seem less important than the feeling, the sense that art binds the living and the dead, hope and fear, heritage and invention. I wrap a shard in cloth, hands stained the same color as the knockworkers who built their hopes into every vessel. The sun has begun to set, painting the hills in shades that echo the pigment cradled in my pack. Somewhere beyond the workshop ruins, I hear a faint chorus, perhaps children, perhaps ghosts singing at a distant funeral pyre. The wind carries the song, and with it, an invitation. My journey will soon lead to shadowed urns, painted black and haunted by ash. A new chapter where ceremony and loss spark further riddles. I step out of the workshop, ochre dust trailing behind, ready to follow the next mystery wherever it may lead. A pale dawn unravels across the endless grasslands, the horizon trembling where earth and sky refuse to part. I ride with the wind biting my cheeks and the breath of distant winter grazing the rolling steps. There is something both thrilling and lonely about this place, a sense that you are always moving, always a visitor, no matter how many days the journey claims. Horses graze on low hills, their silhouettes barely visible as silver mist unspools over the tundra. The path leads me further, drawn by legends of a tribe that lived between worlds. The Scythians, warriors, and nomads, keepers of secrets inscribed not in books but on bodies, in gold, and, as I am soon to learn, in painted clay. Here at the edge of civilization, they laid their dead in curtains beneath the open sky, with treasures and tokens of every kind. I reach the burial mound as fog rolls in, clothing the ground in floating veils. Time slows as I search the base of a weathered cairn. My gloves brush against pottery, almost lost to the elements. A vessel cool and smooth in the shadowy light. Its surface gleams with a shimmer unlike any I have seen, a glaze the color of polished steel, veined and kissed by the mist. Artists somehow captured the intangible, conjuring the effect of dawn's silver veil in the deep heart of clay. The pot is adorned with streaks of pale gray and fleeting lines, painted with a hand at once light and precise. The design suggests movement, riders galloping beyond sight, herds swirling over the grass, clouds streaming overhead. It is as if the artist sought to paint the world itself in motion, untethered and infinite. This technique remains an enigma. Scythian potters learned to suspend fine metallic powders in glaze, firing them with skill and luck so that the sheen of morning would haunt the finished jar. Silver was valued, but in these lands, it became a sign of passage, a color for transition, crossroads, the uncertain border between waking and dream. Perhaps these vessels were meant to hold dew, or air, or wishes for safe travel. I tucked the vessel into my lap, feeling the delicate weight. There are symbols almost hidden, carefully etched among the lines. Spirals, arrows, perhaps even the shadows of horses. The Scythians, legends say, did not fear the threshold between worlds. To them, mist was not an obstacle, but an invitation. They painted with yearning and defiance, shaping the stuff of their vast domain into vessels that whispered of flight and freedom. Above the mound, the sun finally punches through the fog. For a moment, every blade of grass shivers in silver light. I think of the women and men who once knelt here, pouring offerings into clay, asking ancestors for strength. Did they hope their art would carry these prayers farther than their voices, across mountains and generations? Did the mist ever answer, curling back with omens in its folds? Sliding the jar safely into my pack, I breathe the chill air and listen. Far to the east, I catch the faint sound of hooves, real or imagined. This land has always prized movement and memory, blending both into shimmering myth. The mist returns, thick as before, nudging me onward toward the next horizon. Somewhere beyond these steps, storytellers speak of ruby glazes and flooded sanctuaries, of mysteries submerged and waiting for the brave to surface them into day. The world at its edge is a place where art is never just a thing. It is a message, a promise, a drifting thread of silver at sunrise, always just out of reach. Morning arrives as a hush, the sky thick with frost and a pale ghostly glow. My breath floats visible, quickened by anticipation and the knowledge that every step north brings me closer to the line where earth and sky seem to meet. Pines creak in the Arctic wind, and snowdrifts blanket everything except for the old stone fire rings. Silent black crescents hinting at long nights and stories kept alive by flickering light. Here, north of the familiar world, I seek not a throne or empire, but a legacy woven in whispers. It is in the lee of an ice-worn boulder that I spot the vestige I have been searching for, the shaman's vessel, half buried, its dark form striking against the clean white snow. My fingers, numb but determined, work to free the pot. It is heavier than I expect, robust, made not for show but for purpose. Its surface is marked in patterns of deep smudged black, the runes and symbols painted with charcoal by hands guided as much by trance as by daylight. The Sami people, indigenous to these lands for thousands of years, held the shaman as the link between the living and the realm of spirits, the healer, the keeper of memory. In the warmth of dim huts, beneath antlered totems, shamans painted runes in charcoal and smoke, every mark a bridge between the seen and the unseen. The vessel in my hands shivers with these intentions. Lines that zigzag like lightning, spirals representing journeys, figures that melt between human and animal forms. The runes may seem simple to anyone expecting Jomon curls or Persian filigree, but they contain a wild power, a clarity of purpose, a focus on connection, protection, and the cycles of the natural world. I gently brush away ice crystals, tracing the symbols with a gloved finger. They are stories in shorthand, prayers cast as both warnings and invitations. Some runes call for strength in the hunt, others for safe passage through winter storms. The shaman would have filled this vessel with water or with earth, inviting spirit allies to speak or heal, to answer questions that science has never dared. Nearby, the remnants of campfires and reindeer bones suggest silent gatherings, circles drawn tight against the cold, voices raised in song as the northern lights shimmer overhead. In these moments, art was not meant to be beautiful, but powerful. Every stroke of charcoal absorbs mystery, becoming both veil and key. Scholars who have glimpsed such vessels debate their meaning and their magic. Some say the charcoal served as an anchor, pulling spirits closer, helping memories endure. Others believe that each rune is a message for future wanderers, a codebook for survival and gratitude. The Sami knew that the greatest forces could not be seen, only honored, and art was their most faithful messenger. As I cradle the shaman's pot, a gust of wind sends snow swirling in wild, ephemeral shapes. The vessel, black against the expanse, becomes a reminder that darkness is not absence, but a canvas for meaning. My hands now bear the faint smudge of charcoal, a mark I accept with reverence, the echo of a conversation across centuries, the continuity of hope and healing. Packing the vessel with care, I cast a glance at the horizon where forest yields again to vastness. The journey draws me on, beyond the boundary of Sami lands, beyond the bonds of frost, to sunken sanctuaries where red glazes gleam and mystery waits beneath still water. I walk away with the taste of ash and the certainty that every rune, burned in black, is both a map and an unspoken promise that the story will always continue. The wind has a voice here, a ceaseless song that rises and falls with the tides along the storm-lashed Japanese coast. I follow a narrow path carved into cliffs battered by the restless Pacific. Salt spray beating on my skin, the air scented with pine and the deep mineral tang of seaweed. Gulls wheel overhead, their cries rising above the thundering surf, and every stone seems slick with a history shaped by wind, water, and relentless change. At the base of a rocky outcrop, I crouch beside a crumbling midden, scattered with the remains of ancient shellfish and fire-blackened pebbles. I dig, my hands gritty and chilled, until I uncover something remarkable, a vessel, still mostly intact, its surface patterned by striking bands of black so deep they swallow the light. The stripes twist and turn in sharp, jagged angles, and with each shift in the coastal sun, they appear to move, echoing the motion of the waves and the fleeting shadow of storm clouds across the shore. The Jomon people once lived with and by the sea, their lives attuned to the rhythm of the elements. Crafted over thousands of years, Jomon pottery is among the world's oldest, an evolution from simple clay to elaborate art. The obsidian stripes on this vessel are not just decoration, they are testimony to a technology born from hardship. The strategic blend of mineral-rich sand and volcanic glass to create a black so pure it seems almost supernatural in its intensity. I run my thumb along the stripes, marveling at the precision. How did these ancient artisans, lacking modern tools, achieve such clarity of edge and depth of color? Some believe obsidian dust was painstakingly ground and mixed into the glazes, a dangerous and laborious process. Others suggest the stripes represent more than a technological feat. They are a mark of appeasement, a charm against the tempests that frequently ravage this unforgiving coast. Legend has it the patterns were drawn during the fiercest storms, each line a bargain struck with the sea gods, asking for mercy or abundance. The marks on this pot are bold but also comforting, as though embodying both defiance and respect. Even hundreds of generations later, the vessel has not dulled or surrendered its fierce pattern to the sea's eroding touch. I picture a long-ago village huddled against a storm's fury, flames flickering behind reed-matted doors, granaries lashed secure while potters labored by lamplight. Children would press noses to foggy windows, watching as the obsidian stripes dried, dark against the clay. The stripping was a way of binding craftsmanship to landscape, storytelling to necessity. Archaeologists puzzle over their meaning. Are they ritual, warning, or a record of battles lost and survived? As I cradle the vessel, it feels almost warm, the lines alive with some remnant of the storm's spirit. The stripes are reminders that to live in this place is to stand on the threshold between plenty and peril, art and endurance. The surf roars louder, and a distant thunderclap hints at squalls yet to come. I pack the vessel, my hands stained faintly black, and climb back up the slippery path. The village ruins loom behind me, ghosts in the gathering dusk. I turn inland now, drawn by rumors of a sunken shrine where forbidden purples once shimmered. Waiting beneath the waves for a careful hand and a curious heart to lift them from the silence. The obsidian stripes fade from view but burn still in my mind, a reminder that survival is its own kind of art, and the wild places always leave their mark. Beneath a sky heavy with salt and promise, I stand on cracked stone at the boundary between sea and memory. The Mediterranean stretches endless, its surface glittering with the aftermath of storms. Fishermen's voices echo across the water, their small boats tugged by ancient currents. My destination lies below, all but forgotten except in myths, where a Phoenician shrine sank into the depths, pulled under by an earthquake and swallowed by the relentless tide. It takes time and patience to descend. The water is shockingly cold, swirling with fine silt stirred by my gentle strokes. Each breath is measured, masked by the hush that settles as I drift closer to the sunken threshold. Shafts of daylight filter through the waves, illuminating cracks in marble and statues toppled sideways, but it is a shimmer of unlikely color that truly draws me. Hidden against submerged limestone, I discover fragments of a vessel, its surfaces alive with a violet so intense it seems to glow, even in these drowned shadows. Violet was more than color to the Phoenicians. It was wealth and obsession, a dye so rare it could only be drawn from thousands of crushed murex shells, a process fiercely protected and monopolized by their city-states. For centuries, only royalty, priests, and those touched by the divine were allowed to own this color. Here, before me in the deep, the glaze has lost none of its luster. It blazes with an inner fire, transforming simple clay into sacred treasure. The vessel's curves are smooth, elegant, honed by fingers that must have understood reverence. Painted arcs flare in radiant violet, suggesting flames rising from the waves or perhaps the rays of a setting sun swallowed each day by water. I turn the fragment in my glove, feeling the paradox. How could something so precious be consigned to silence for so long? Did this vessel once hold ritual oil or serve in votive offerings from sailors begging favor for their long journeys? It is easy to imagine the shrine in its prime, priestesses moving through incense fog, the air thick with hymns and the perfume of the sea. The Phoenicians were traders and dreamers, forever reaching beyond the known. They poured their ambitions and faith into their arts, trusting that color itself might be powerful enough to reach the gods. Violet was their signature, rich, defiant, forever marking what was forbidden to most. I rise slowly, bringing the artifact toward the surface. Each ripple of sunlight, each heartbeat, feels like a message delivered across eras. Archaeologists have long debated the meaning of the vessels found here. Some argue they were tokens of protection, meant to guard against ill fortune or storms that threatened both body and fleet. Others believe the vessels contained sacred oils, necessary for rituals that renewed the pact between humanity and the endless, hungry ocean. On the shore, the violet shines wet in my palm, brighter than any coin or jewel. The others who gathered to see it fall silent, awed by the way color survives tragedy and time. Artisans once guarded the secret of this hue with zeal and pride. Now, the secret is returned to air and light, the story newly told. There is no final answer, only the joy of rediscovery. A reminder that some fires refuse to be drowned no matter how deep the water. Night edges closer, the horizon running violet as the sun slips behind distant mountains. My next path will wind away from the sea, searching for prismatic shadows and ancient tombs, where light once danced across painted jars and history waited to be awakened. The violet blaze remains with me, alive in the rare hush after a storm, a beacon that mystery endures as long as someone dares to seek. The morning is soft with golden mist, the air gently sweet with spring olive and distant jasmine. The island of Cyprus holds its secrets beneath layers of ancient stone, its fields bright but its tombs dark and silent. The hush of the Bronze Age echoing long after its last songs faded. I walk a winding path up low hills dotted with wildflowers, the ground uneven from centuries of burials. Every step a passage through worlds held together by memory. In the heart of a ruined necropolis, I find the entrance to a tomb half swallowed by the earth. My lantern glows small in the gloom, illuminating twisted corridors painted smooth by water and time. The burial chamber is a small cathedral of shadows and sunbeams. There, wrapped in soft dust and the hush of the dead, rests an enormous jar, a burial urn unlike any I have seen, its surface alive with shifting color. Prismatic bands arch across its belly, refracting light into countless shades as the sunrise creeps through a cracked stone ceiling. The colors seem to move, red folding into blue, gold flickering to green, each line uncertain, never settling. It is as if the jar is both vessel and canvas, painted for eyes half in dream, half in mourning. I crouch and touch the glaze, feeling the surprising smoothness, the cool weight, the promise of skill and ritual. Bronze Age artisans of Cyprus were masters of pigment, blending minerals with fire and water to birth hues unknown even in the grand workshops of their neighbors. The prismatic effect was not only technical but mystical. Light, they believed, was a bridge between realms, a way to connect the living with ancestors at rest. Jars like this held the remains of city rulers, beloved priests, or voyagers whose journeys extended beyond the horizon. The shifting shadows painted across their graves marked the passage of soul, the certainty that no journey is truly over. As I turn the jar, painted shapes sometimes emerge. Animals in flight, rivers meandering into cloud, flames that dissolve into foliage. Each detail blurs in the changing light, refusing to reveal a single truth. This ambiguity may be the artist's intent, a way of expressing the transition from known to unknown, from life into the riddle of the afterworld. The tomb is eerily quiet. I imagine a procession, families bearing gifts, voices raised in prayer, ancestors invoked by both word and color. The prismatic glaze would have flared as torches flickered, a spectacle designed to console, to awe, to remind. Some scholars insist the colors were warnings, codes to ward off evil, ensure safe passage, or simply mark the importance of the dead. I brush away a patch of dust to find a cluster of tiny spirals, subtle marks left by the potter's own hand. Their presence hints at care, at final touches given with hope for peace. The jar is heavy but still strong, its prismatic sheen defiant in the face of centuries. Packing it into my satchel, I feel the ancient promise, a legacy not erased, but refracted, split into new meanings with every telling. As the sun rises fully, the chamber brightens, and shadows stretch boldly across the stone. Somewhere beyond these tombs, other mysteries await, an unbroken spiral looping through caves. Old echoes that have yet to find their words. The burial jar is a guide, prismatic and unresolved, leading me forward. In the shifting light, it reminds me that the end is never the end, but the start of new color, new questions, and a journey that continues no matter how old the road may be. Now the trail twists away from the sunlight, slipping under a band of fir trees that mark the edge of the known world. The land here is untamed, silent save for the distant call of ravens and the slow sigh of wind through tall grass. I follow the path as it narrows, stones crunching beneath my boots, every step carrying me further from field and sky and deeper into mystery. The cave mouth appears suddenly, a dark arch cut into a hillside thick with moss and wildflowers, its opening wide enough just for a single explorer to pass. Inside, the air chills and thickens. Each echo multiplies, every scuff and breath repeated dozens of times until the sound flattens into something ancient. Lantern light dissolves in the perpetual dusk, and the walls drip with condensation, beads running down among carvings and painted marks faded but persistent. I sense a gathering of stories here, a memory kept alive by silence and stone. Along the deepest curve of the cave, my lamp reveals a spiral painted in ochre, a single unbroken loop that stretches from the floor to the ceiling. The spiral is not a perfect coil. It wavers, thickens, narrows, as if tracing the pulse of a living thing. Each bend is marked by subtle hash lines, spirals within spirals that seem to breathe as I move past. Traces of other hands appear, faint overlays where generations of Scythian shaman, priest, or wanderer returned to redraw the line, adding their hope or blessing. The spiral is among the oldest symbols of these lands. It appears on stones in open tundra and on pottery sealed in burial mounds. For the Scythians, the spiral spoke to transformation, to journeys both physical and spiritual, and to their belief that time itself was a kind of returning path. Some spirals represented the sun's annual cycle, others, the journey through death and rebirth. The artists used ochre and charcoal, a blend of pigments that sank into rock, enduring long beyond memory. Each line whispers a defiance of attitude. The world changes, but the mark remains. I place a palm against the cave wall, feeling the roughness of pigment, the cool press of history. Scholars argue the spiral is a charm, guiding spirits or marking sacred ground. Locals say the cave itself sings, a low hum in the night, rising and falling with the winds and the seasons, echoing the spiral's eternal promise. The silence is never quite complete. Above me, water drips in slow rhythm, and I catch a faint vibration, more sensation than sound. There are other marks near the spiral, tiny symbols, animal figures, looping arcs, but my eyes return to the main coil, drawn by its simplicity and depth. I imagine a procession, torches flaring in the night, elders reciting stories to travelers lost or hopeful, children tracing the line with their own hands. Perhaps the cave once sheltered rituals for the living and send-offs for the dead, its spiral a bridge between worlds, a guide for souls venturing into the unknown. The spiral does not close, but disappears into a shadowed crevice as if the story is still growing. I pack away a small sketch of the cave wall, knowing that this is not the end, only an inflection in the larger journey. The passage out is steep and twisting. The grass outside glows under low sun, the wind returning as a gentle chime. I step back into day, carrying the echo of the spiral. The mark is both beginning and conclusion, a sign that every expedition leaves its trace, and every seeker finds their own answer. Ahead, the road winds on. The Cave of Echoes joins a tapestry woven from crimson spirals, violet blazes, obsidian stripes, and prismatic shadows. The eternal spiral guides me forward, whispering that history is not a collection of endings, but a single thread, looping through every question, every artifact, every place we dare to search. The journey now settles, the expedition pausing where twilight lingers and the world feels both vast and intimate. From valley floor to mountain mist, storm coast to sunken shrine, we have wandered through 15 epochs, each one whispering with its own mystery. In the hush drifting over painted pottery and carved stone, I am reminded that every discovery is less an answer and more an invitation, a door cracked open to deeper questions. There is a quiet magic in ruins, a persistent echo that grows louder the longer we listen. Each artifact, each glimmer of color or spiral of line connects us across time, binding explorer to artisan, seeker to ancestor. We have knelt beneath harvest moons, traced the chill of frozen rivers, followed the shimmer of violet beneath rolling waves, and watched prismatic shadows dance across the tombs of forgotten rulers. The dust that clings to our boots is the same that blind potters molded with hope, or that travelers carried home in their hearts, a fragment of something bigger, something universal. What emerges from these fragments is not certainty, but awe. The earth keeps secrets better than any legend. The true story is one of connection, of old hands guiding new, of art surviving war and weather, of longing that outlasts empire. These painted pottery techniques, baffling and beautiful, our voices calling from places where time folds in on itself, inviting us to sit a while and wonder. In the flickering light, we see ourselves curious, uncertain, compelled by stories and by the silence between them. The expedition will end tonight, firelight gentle, the stars distant but not indifferent, yet the path is never finished. It loops for those willing to look, those who listen for the heartbeat beneath the stone and the brushstroke on the urn. I have learned that history does not whisper only to the patient. It waits for the brave, illuminating the next step with every mystery left unsolved. So, with every relic collected, every legend relit, let this journey linger as more than a memory. The painted pottery and the stories tangled within will always call us back, reminding us that to explore is not simply to find, but to feel, to believe, and to continue. Another piece of the puzzle, another night spent by the fire. The expedition of the Erased Epochs presses on.